What is up, our good college football peoples? It is your boy Spongerelli and my big dog LaFaro in the building, coming at you. We're a little later than normal in the week. We had a little technical difficulties on the laptop yesterday, so we're coming to you a day later than we normally would, obviously. But we're here to talk some college football. Obviously, we had some big games last weekend. The slate wasn't too sexy. Obviously, the Florida Georgia game was the headliner for us. The Canes and Knowles had, somewhat weaker opponents, but, handled business and won games. But yeah, another week down and another week headed to week 10 of the season is freaking ridiculous that we've only got literally like 4 weeks left until
that's it.
I mean, it's
almost over.
It's almost sad, It's one of those things of like, we buzzed through those first 2 months and, we turned the calendar over. I mean, I can't even believe it's November already.
It's Thanksgiving.
But I know, man. So, again, like I say, appreciate everybody coming out, giving us the good support, listening to us, subscribing, liking, all that good stuff. Talk some trash to us, whatever it is. We'll jump right into it. And like I say, we'll talk about our big three. We'll talk about Florida, Georgia last. We'll go ahead and discuss the quick damage and work that Florida State did against Wake. I know you said last week, this could be a sleepy, all of a sudden Wake Forest is tight in the game, but Florida State handled business and did what they've been doing to the lesser opponents since that road trip to BC. They've been basically taking care of everybody, and they basically did the same thing against Wake, and it was really not even a ball game.
No, it was a dominant game. Wake got a touchdown early. And then Florida State just went on one of those Florida State runs where they put up 21, 30 points real quick. And it was like, 10-7 at one point? And then in a blink of an eye, I think at the half, it was 34-7.
Yeah. So they scored 24 in the second quarter.
Yeah. Yeah. So they just blitzed the hell out of Wake Forest and put that game away pretty easy. I mean, as a Florida State fan, you got to be happy still. You're handling business. You're taking care of the teams you're supposed to take care of. Positives coming out of the game. They get the tight ends more involved. I mean, Johnny Wilson didn't play, so you got the tight ends involved. Keon Coleman had another great game. Defense, 6 sacks. They roughed up Wake Forest's quarterback there. So they dominated the game and they did what they were supposed to do on the road. At a noon game. I believe it was a noon game. So
yeah, it was an early kick. Yeah. Jordan Travis played great. I mean, he's been playing great, but he played really well again. I mean, threw for 359 on the day. Mm-hmm. Like you said, no Johnny Wilson, but Keon Coleman had a big day with 2 touchdowns. Trey Benson. Benson had 80 yards or 100 yards receiving on 4 catches. He had the big 80-yard touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
They really didn't. He ran it only 10 times for 55, but they kind of just, didn't really have to run it because they were throwing it all over the place. Yeah. But I still know they would like to probably get the running game a little more involved, and hopefully they'll do that probably this weekend with Pitt. But yeah, all in all, just Wake Forest to me, they're not the same Wake Forest as last year. Obviously, no Sam Hartman. They lose some of those other guys. A little bit of a transition year for Wake, and they're just not as good as they've been in the past couple of seasons. And Florida State handled business and took care of them.
Yeah, here's one for you that they've given up 1 touchdown in the second half all of October. The Florida State defense.
That's
dominating.
No, that's definitely pretty. It's definitely pretty good. And like I say, I mean, I definitely will say what can contribute to that is the fact of you played Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, and Duke without Riley Leonard, but hey,
well, I got to hear about how dominant Michigan is, and you go through their schedule. Florida State's schedule is better than that crap.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I say, we've talked about Michigan and how yes, they're dominating.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, that's still pretty good. You're still playing against. You're not playing the schools of the deaf and the blind, and to only give up 1 TD, in a whole month in the second half.
Right. Well,
I guess that's pretty good.
I guess this was what I was talking to one of the guys at work who's a Florida State fan. I said I think Florida State's obviously one of the best teams in the country. They're in the top 4. They're in the Final Four right now. They're in the college football playoff. All that good stuff. My biggest question is, I want to see how good this defense is because name a good offense they've played besides LSU week 1. And that's where you want to say. Guess what? They're going to get the challenge hopefully next week against your boys. Hopefully the Canes and that high-powered offense will get their stuff together so that they can actually
I don't know about how.
pose.
Yeah.
I mean, well, they were a top 5 offense, a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago until Van Dyke got hurt. But
Well, yeah.
like I say, Florida State handled business. They've done what they needed to do this year against the
Yeah.
lesser opponent teams.
But
They
the thing
haven't
is,
had that sleepwalk game.
but we can't do the tit for tat thing, whereas we're criticizing Florida State for who they've played and saying, oh, they haven't played anyone. But then I'm not saying you, but I'm just saying that like the pundits are killing Florida State and don't want to rank them high, but you want to put Michigan in the top 2 or 3, and you're telling us how dominant they are. Like
I agree.
That's kind of hypocritical. It's not Florida State's fault that Clemson is down this year. At least I'm sure Clemson is still better. The best team Michigan has played is Rutgers.
Well, I was talking to Dave at work today, and we were just talking about we'll get into this too here in a second when we talk about this week, Florida, Arkansas. Like Arkansas is one of those teams where they're 2-5, but you put them in the Big Ten West or whatever, and they're going to the Big Ten championship game. They're going to beat all those teams. They're playing
exactly.
They're going to play Ohio State.
Exactly.
So it's
and I get you play who you play.
Season,
you play your schedule.
Exactly. After the season has kind of settled now, we're past the halfway point. You can kind of see where the top teams are the top teams in the conference, and then you can kind of see where some teams were overinflated, overrated, whatever you want to call it, and then then you start looking at it like, man, some teams are just flat out bad. So the ACC after the top has kind of gotten hit, and even like a North Carolina or a Duke and a Miami, you guys had the inexplicable loss of Georgia Tech, so that dinged you. You get Georgia Tech, who's won a couple games and upset, like North Carolina, where they were looking like 2 weeks ago, North Carolina was the greatest thing since sliced bread. They were going undefeated. We're going to have all these undefeated teams in the, in the conference, and then, they get dinged. So it's like,
but I still would take North Carolina over probably
Rutgers and North Carolina.
I'm talking about Penn State. I'm going to go to Big Ten.
I don't know if I'd put them as the third best team. Like I still think Penn State's the third best team in the league.
Well, guess what? If they played in the Big Ten, and like you said, they played in the Big Ten West, they would win the Big Ten West.
Yeah,
and go to the championship game.
No, they would still get in there, but I don't think they'd beat either the big three teams. But
I think they would struggle against Ohio State and Michigan, but I think they could beat Penn State. But that's just my Penn State slander.
I know you've slandered the Nittany Lions this year all year. You just don't love that Drew Aller led offense with that great defense.
I don't hate Drew Aller. They just don't do it for me.
They're bland. Like I say, they're bland ball. So it is what it is. But yeah,
Florida State, win for Florida State.
They handle
like I say, next week.
That's what you do. You look at the final 4 games. They got Pitt's terrible. They should beat Pitt with no problem. And then it comes down to, can they beat the 2 rivals? And then we'll see what happens. But all right, buddy, bro. Well, your boys had a bit of a struggle fest against the now all of a sudden red hot Virginia Wahoos Cavaliers. They got taken to overtime against Virginia, and I was surely shocked at that score late in that game that I'm just like, what is going on here?
The problem is the quarterback. It's that simple. The problem is the quarterback at this moment. I don't know if he's injured, he's bad. You just don't know, because when you watch the game, the offensive line is dominating. The defense is playing pretty good. You got a stable of running backs. They're able to run the ball. And then you look at 9 and you're just like, there are passes where you're just like, dude, what are you looking at? Like his first pick, he just underthrew Restrepo. If Restrepo is wide open, he puts it in front of him, and where he's supposed to put it, it's a touchdown. There's his second pick. You're just like, just down, and you're just watching it, and you're just like, can you just please check the ball down? It's okay. But before I let you go, here, listen to this one. His last 20 games, the first 17 games of TVD starting since he's been starting, 34 TDs, 8 interceptions. His last 3, including that game Saturday, going in, part of the game, 5 TDs and 7 interceptions.
Yeah, I can't put my head around. He played so good at the beginning of the year. Then he has the injury. He doesn't play against Clemson, so you're like, all right, well, you go with Emory Williams, the guy he gets you to a win. Then you're like, okay, the ugly win, but it got it with a brand new quarterback, basically a rookie. So you get the win, and you're like, okay, now you're like, all right, is Van Dyke? He had the week off. how's he feeling? What's the situation? And you go in against a team where Virginia just upset North Carolina the week before,
Yeah.
so they were riding high, feeling good. But my thing is, if Van Dyke's not healthy, it's like, let's not risk more injury.
I agree, but he's just the best chance to win.
He's definitely the better option, obviously.
He's the
So
better option. Like you say, you can't go in. You definitely can't go into next week. I'm trying not to skip ahead NC State,
yeah,
but just say you can't go into Florida State week with the same situation you did last year, where you put a freshman quarterback out there and expect them to win. It's
yeah,
not going to happen.
for
Especially,
sure.
we got lucky because Clemson's offense just isn't what it used to be.
Right.
Because if Clemson's offense is a quarter of what it was the last several years, we lose that game.
Yeah, probably
They
so.
they couldn't, and you can't play against the Florida States in the world or the Louisvilles of the world and expect to say our defense is going to be light. It can't happen, but we have too many on defense where we give up big plays, and you're like,
Yeah,
all right, you give up a couple touchdowns, and then you're like fighting back just to get in the game. Like the Virginia game, I give Virginia credit. I mean, I didn't realize how big their offensive line was. Their big offensive line. They were trying to blow guys off the ball, so we played a lot of defensive linemen that normally don't play. And Lichtenstein and Dean had a good game. Bain had a good game. So Guidry did some great adjusting at the half to slow down that Virginia offense. I'm not saying it's a high-powered offense, but clearly it gave Carolina some issues, and it's got on its stride the last couple of weeks. I mean, the key to the game was the AJ Allen touchdown where he leaped over a guy and he scored to make it. I think it was 10-10, and then the very next play, Cam Kitchens had a pick six to go up 17-10. And right then I'm like, all right, I'm feeling good. We should be
right.
able to get the rest of this game over with. But Van Dyke throws another pick, and he just the thing with the picks to me is when he throws them, the other team gets in such a great field position to where
Yeah.
it makes it easy to where you get 3 or 7 out of it, and
Yeah,
you
no,
put your
you
defense in a
can't.
bad
Yeah,
position.
you can't turn it over like
Right,
inside your red. You can't turn it
right.
over where a guy gets a
Mhm,
return that sets you up on a short field.
mhm.
All those that's where the turnover is like, uptified, where it's like,
Yeah,
this is bad because we're basically
yeah,
setting this team up for a short field.
yep.
You're
And he
you're almost gifting them some points here, whether it's
yeah,
3 or 6.
yep, and he's
And
locked on 7. He's
yeah,
locked on
I,
he's
I don't
locked
I don't
on 7.
I don't understand why too, because you got to me, all the guys can make plays. So it's
Agreed.
just, I don't know if he's just comfortable throwing to him so much, but
Yeah.
the turnover definitely is an issue, definitely is a problem. And you
Mhm.
can't do that to beat a team like Florida State. You can't mess around and do that. Like NC State's a pesky team. We'll get into that in
Yep.
a little bit too. But like,
Mhm.
yeah, I was just, more
At this level,
so.
you can't do this with any team. You're
Yeah,
not a dominant team. You're not
yeah,
like where Georgia could probably afford to turn the ball over once or twice a game, and even then, they're still not as dominant as they've been in the past. So, like, there's no team really out there where you're like, you could. I mean, never you could turn the ball over twice, but there are some teams in the past where you're like, they could turn the ball over once or twice, and their defense is still going to stiffen up and get it back. But and then, like I said, I like Tyler. I'm a TBD fan, but he just hasn't been getting the job done. In the last
yeah,
couple of years, he gets dinged up, and the next thing you know, he's playing like crap. But like I say, he's the best option.
yeah. No, he's
I
definitely the
mean,
best option. You just hope
yeah,
he gets his mojo back or something, because
hmm,
just, you're like, you're fully capable, and
yep,
you've seen what you've seen earlier in the season where,
yeah,
he was lighting it up. It's just
hmm,
like, you take that ding on the Georgia Tech game, and you're just like, that one
yeah.
hurt. And then,
But the thing that's frustrating is it's not like he's getting harassed or rushed or anything. The offensive line is doing a great job protecting him. They're leaving the backs and tight ends in, so he has a pocket. And then that's what makes it worse. You're just like, who? What are you looking at?
yeah.
Like, it's okay to take that 3-yard check down, and maybe the back could get another 2 or 3
Yeah,
on
or just
first and 10.
get rid of it if you don't
Or
like
get
it,
rid of it.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like I
You just
said,
can't
it's
force it. I mean, in this one for the Canes, we got out with a W. Borgalis was huge with his 3 field
yeah,
goals. And then the big run by Mark Fletcher to in
yep,
overtime. I mean,
yep.
Big Cohen leading the way and
Freshman, baby.
yeah, throwing his guy out of the club. And the next thing you know, he's shoving Fletcher in the end zone. So hey, they got out with the dub. This team last year, I know Canes
They
fans
find a way to
probably aren't
lose that
happy.
game.
They
Yeah,
find a way to lose these games. So now
yeah,
we're finding ways to win games, and sometimes
yeah.
it's better to be lucky than good.
No, you got it. That's
It's that
100%,
simple.
100%.
Mhm.
Case in point. Again, you got to win the game. So you found
Yep,
a way. You got the
yep.
win. Another win in the
You
column.
just don't wanna keep winning that way.
No, because what happens is you keep playing like that, and you're going to get bit.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
kind of like Georgia
exactly.
Tech. So,
Yep.
but yeah. All right. Well, last round robin of the Florida trio was the mighty Gators taking on the number one team in the country. Well, they're not number one anymore. They're number one in some polls, but they're now number two. But anyways,
Number
the
1 in my
Georgia
poll.
Bulldogs thumped the Florida Gators, whooped that ass. They handled business. They did exactly what Kirby and the boys thought they were going to do. I certainly, like a lot of other Gator fans, after that first drive of
You're feeling good.
Seeing Eugene Wilson out there just looking smooth, fast as hell, like he
Yeah.
just looked.
Hey, hey,
It was
it's
like it
great
was like what
scripted
it was like.
plays.
What is this? And for you to basically then have another decent drive after you
Mhm.
hold them to a field goal, you're like, okay, we're
Yep.
moving the ball. Let's get some things going. And then exactly what I said couldn't happen happened. You know, you basically set yourself up for long yard situations by either getting sacked, getting the pressures. So you put
Mhm.
yourself in, second and 19 after a 9-yard sack on first down. Then you basically you go for it with the 4th and 2 call. You try to get tricky, and the play was like I don't mind the aggressiveness right there because it's like, all right, if you're going to try to win the
Mhm.
game, great. It's just the play call per se was you just basically try to
I
trick them,
mean,
and it
but
didn't
then
work.
Smile London made a hell of a play.
Yeah, no, for sure. And here's Ricky was over here watching the game, and at that point, I said I'd probably punt it here.
Yeah.
Mr. Conservative.
Surprising. Surprisingly.
I was like, I'd punt it here and just we're in the lead. Like
That's not like
the
you.
only reason I said that is because we're at our own 30. It was like at the 35.
Yeah,
Like
I agree.
that's like you just said, a turnover pick that Van Dyke throws where you give the ball at the 35,
Mhm.
and then literally the very next
And
drive comes.
that offense doesn't need short field.
No, it doesn't. Like Georgia, like what you were saying a minute ago, like Georgia turned the ball over. No, Georgia, if you really go back and look at the numbers, they are one of the most efficient offenses actually
Yeah.
in the country. Like they score on their drives.
Mhm.
Um, so you give them the short field, they score, and then you come back the next drive and Mertz gets stripped, fumble, and then it's just like the barrage is on.
That
You know,
second quarter was oof.
it was horrendous. You
Yeah.
know, they even blocked a punt that really didn't even hurt us because they only got the 2 points out of it, and they
That made
didn't
it
even
26-7, didn't it?
yeah. But the good part is they didn't score to tack on another 6. We actually
Yeah.
stopped them, to stop the bleeding a little bit. But by that time, once you're down 3 scores, the game's
It's
over.
over.
It is over. Like
Especially against a team like that,
yeah,
with Kirby being the coach and the defensive guy, with him and Boom on the sideline, they're not gonna allow you to
the
come back.
Florida is not built for that.
No.
Case in point was the Kentucky game. That
Yeah.
like it was, you got down big, and this team's not built like that. We
Yeah.
said this team needed to have a
Like
fast
Kentucky,
start, which
like a Tennessee
they,
game.
they got the fast start, and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, let's go. Let's see what we got
Mhm.
here. And ultimately just couldn't get out of their own way.
Nope.
Couldn't generate first downs to extend drives.
Mm-mm.
Couldn't get the run game going, even though there was some
Well,
decent runs.
but
But the drive just could never get established because you couldn't
the
get any
key
first
stat.
downs.
Well, you said it last week. Third down.
Third
What were you
downs,
guys like?
exactly.
3 and
We
11, 3 for
we were
11, I think it
we
was.
were
3 for
slapped.
12.
We were slapped terrible. It was
You're 0 for 2 on fourth.
yeah, we're 0 for 2 on the fourth down play. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
we were 4 of 11 on
4 of
third
11.
down,
Yeah.
and Georgia was
That's not.
60% or 50%. They were
Yeah.
6 of 12, and they were 1 of 1 on fourth down. They outgained us. Beck
Mm-hmm.
he could pack his lunch and sit
Dude.
back there all day.
I get why Carson's probably not in the Heisman race, because you look at the yardage wise, he's in the top 5,
Yeah.
but he's not thrown for a lot of TDs and whatnot. But he doesn't turn. Carson doesn't turn the ball
No,
over.
Georgia didn't turn the
He's
ball over at
efficient.
all.
I mean, Lab
That's what you
McConkey
need.
being
Like
back is huge.
he's not even a game manager. He manages
Yeah.
the game well, but he actually lights it up too. So like,
Yeah.
don't worry. I feel like his numbers are about to continue to be the same, and he's going to get big games here down the stretch. He
Yeah.
will be in the Heisman talk. He will.
He should be. Yeah.
Because
Like I
Georgia,
say,
I
having
think Georgia's going to win.
your favorite receiver, Lab McConkey, coming
Yeah.
back is
No,
dude.
it's
That play he made, you're sitting there like, really? You let Lab McConkey beat you on that play?
yeah.
But
Jason Marshall
he's just
sucks.
he's
Jason
just a,
Marshall is He's terrible. Like
Dude,
the
he's been getting
Palmetto
torched. He's been
dude,
getting
he's
torched all year.
like our entire secondary is terrible
Yeah,
right now. I mean, the only bright spot is Jordan Castell, who's a true freshman out there playing. And that's
yeah,
it. 10, Miguel Mitchell, he can't tackle a soul. Jalen Kimber, he can't cover nobody or tackle anybody. It's like, is this all we got? Play the freshman.
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
Baptize these
at
boys.
this
It's
point,
just
it's
highly
pretty bad.
disappointed in Jason Marshall's play, man.
Yeah,
Like
I
you're
mean, to be
supposed
a
to be the
5-star.
veteran. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. You're supposed to be the veteran. You're supposed to be
Hmm.
the star. You're playing off coverage on, trailing, Lad McConkey, where you're not even near him to even tackle him in phase when he makes a catch across the middle. Then for him just to cut back on you, just to look like an idiot.
Yeah,
No Brock Bowers, no problem. Georgia was efficient. Again, they ran the ball when they needed to. You know, Carson had all day to throw. He found, guys wide open. Dominic Lovett, Ra Thomas, Oscar
yep.
Delp made a one-handed catch on the sideline. Looked like Brock Bowers 2.0. And then Georgia's
They're able to run the
defense.
ball. Yeah,
Georgia's defense is legit. Like it doesn't have all the big name power, but they
yeah. I
found a
think
way to continue to pressure. They haven't had a lot of sacks all the season.
yeah.
Guess what? They got our ass.
Well, the problem. I think people saw the Auburn game and they saw the Vanderbilt game and they saw the Carolina game and they were like, "Oh, Georgia's down," and I'm like, well, did you see what they did in the second half? Like, I think Georgia, if they run into a mobile quarterback, just say if they had to play a Florida State with a Jordan Travis type player, I think that's where they have problems defending. And Mertz wasn't going to run. I mean,
Yeah,
Mertz
no.
will scoot out there and get you 3 or 4 if he has to. But overall, like, if you don't have a mobile quarterback to put Georgia in binds on defense, like you say, because they're kind of young and inexperienced per se from the last couple of years, they're still one of the best teams in the country. I still think they're the number one team in the country in my eyes. But hey, we'll find out more and more this week. They played a good Missouri team.
Yeah, they're
Who else do
finally
they have left?
they got Ole Miss the next week.
Yeah, another good offense that
Then they
with a
go
mobile quarterback.
and they play
Yeah.
at Tennessee, and then they finish out with Georgia
Mhm.
Tech. So, like I
Yeah,
say, this is where Georgia plays their best brand of football late in the year. They
yeah.
kind of like just go through the motions, and like that was the other thing too. When you're playing in South Carolina and in Auburn, on the
Mhm.
road, you might sleepwalk through the game. We're just all right.
Yeah.
We didn't play our best game, and then what happens the next week? They play at home. They're playing jacked. Kentucky's hyped up, and they beat the hell out of them. So I think Georgia is just fine. Like
Just went out. Yeah.
I didn't want to overreact on them either, which I kind of did. I was trying to put my Gator hat on, being like, all right, where can we find a way to win the game? Where's our best path to do what. And all
Mhm.
that stuff that we talked about last week, or that I talked about, that what we needed to do, we didn't do any of it. They sacked us. Those hidden yardage in the run game. Basically, Mertz had like negative 30 yards
Mhm.
rushing because he got sacked. So that dinged our ding is like my word of the day
Then
today, by the way.
Montreal had that one big run to make that 80 yards look good.
Right. And that, and then, ETN had a couple explosive runs. There was one time I was sitting here telling Ricky, I'm like, look at this. ETN's averaging 7 yards a carry. It's just we can't give it to him because we're down by 20. You're trying to get first downs and generate.
Yeah.
So it's just on top of that, going back, really the black eye and the blemish is the Gator D has been really kind of terrible.
Yeah.
Their numbers were overrated early in the year. They had those 2 cupcake games, which is a mirage. You played Utah, who didn't have a really high-powered offense in week 1. You kind of shut Tennessee down just because that's the way that game went.
Mhm.
And then you got absolutely just railroaded by Ray Brown, against Kentucky. And so you're like, how good is this defense? What are they? What can they
Mhm.
do? And they didn't get to the quarterback. Beck out all day. We had 0 sacks, 0 turnovers. You're not going to beat the number 1
You're
team
not
in the
gonna beat
country
nope.
when you don't
You're
do
not.
things like that. So
You're not.
at least I will say they played all the way through, and they at least to get beat 40-13 or whatever. So
Yeah.
they
Just
covered
40
the
to
summer.
20.
They covered the summer line 23.5. But yeah,
Push the game.
they
Oh, yeah,
got
yeah, 23.5. Yeah.
they got absolutely murked, which is, like I said, I wasn't surprised at all. I was,
Yeah.
my score prediction was a touchdown off. I thought Georgia would win by 2 scores.
How do they bounce back?
Yeah, that's the big
I mean,
question.
because this week, this is
Yeah.
the key week. I'm sorry to jump ahead.
No, we'll just go
but
ahead and do it. We can jump into the preview.
This
Yeah,
is the key
you're
week
playing Arkansas.
because you
You're playing
guys need.
Arkansas this week at home to try to get to that 6th win.
Yep. Yep. Because if you don't win this week, where do you see the win coming from?
Yeah, you don't. I can't predict them to go on the road and beat LSU next week, or going to Columbia, Missouri the week after, or Florida State coming from Tallahassee to play in the
Mhm.
swamp the Thanksgiving weekend. Those are 3 L's on the board. Now, can we maybe get one of those wins? Sure. We'll
Yeah.
see what happens. I mean, the
But
big
this
one
week is
is
key, though.
let's get this one and see if you can build some momentum,
Yeah.
ride some momentum. Obviously, LSU's got the big game against Bama. Maybe they'll be banged up a little bit, or then maybe they'll get beat
Mhm.
and be sad and down and all that, whatever. I mean, who knows, college football. And then, obviously Missouri's got to play Georgia this week. So maybe
Yeah.
they get banged up playing them. But,
How do they
I don't,
stop KJ Jefferson is I think the key to this game, even though we were talking before we went live, is Arkansas. Don't be fooled by Arkansas' schedule. I mean their
yeah.
record, because they're still a decent team. I mean, they gave Bama a run for their money. They gave a couple teams a run for their
Oh,
money. I think they
hey,
got like 3 or 4 games where they lost by like less than 5 points or something like that.
yes, yes, yes. Arkansas is 2-6 on the year. So you're thinking, man, they are terrible. They
Yeah.
suck. They lost by a touchdown against BYU, which they should have never lost that game.
Hmm.
They lost on the road in Baton Rouge 34-31. Like, we're talking about how great LSU is.
Yeah.
The game where they really struggled, was A&M. They lost that one 34-22. But then they came back with back-to-back road games at Ole Miss and at Bama. Lost to Ole Miss 27-20, and then Bama 24-21. And then they had the wonderful game against Mississippi State where it was 7-3. They lost that one.
Hmm.
So, like, yes, they are struggling. Well, they fired their offensive coordinator. So what is that going to look like? What are they going to do different?
Yeah.
They're changing
And
things
you
up.
just don't know what to expect.
Exactly. That more so was what makes me nervous.
Yeah,
It's like,
probably a lot of QB run this
yeah,
week.
they're going to
I
be.
mean,
We're going to let
their running
KJ do
backs
what. Hey,
decent.
KJ, just do whatever you do, dog. Just take over. And
Yeah.
that scares me. And then to know that they are capable of, they're going to be in the game. It's not going to be a pushover.
No.
You're just hoping you can build off of whatever you had going before
Mhm.
the bye. You got slapped around against the number 1 team in the country. You're back home where you play well at.
Yeah.
Take care of the ball.
Can you bounce back? Can you bounce
Exactly.
back? Yeah, that's all what it is. Can you bounce
Yeah.
back? If you're Billy, do you start? It's too soon to probably start getting those freshmen in there.
Oh, what do
But
you mean? That's all we play. That's all, we're playing
oh,
a ton of freshmen.
no.
Like,
Well,
we're
I'm
playing.
just saying in like
No, I
in key
know.
positions, like
No, I know. Well, if here's really and truly, I was talking about this today too. They had the graphic, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. Florida has played the most freshmen in the country. I think we're playing like 14 true freshmen.
yeah,
On top of that, if you look at the 2 deep, we literally only have 1 senior who gets any kind of playing time at all. The rest of the guys,
That's good.
no, it is. That's what we are a very young team.
The problem is, I think for the Gators, the problem is depending on these last 4 weeks, does Billy make it?
Yeah, he's not getting fired, dude. Not
You don't
like
think
even
so?
no, no
Even if
way.
they lose out?
Yeah, even if they go 5-7, he's not going to get fired this year.
I mean, that's a good thing because as from a Gator perspective, because you don't want to reset again and then
You
you
don't.
lose it.
Well,
He has a great class coming in. You don't want to lose that great class.
exactly. They're the number 3 class in the country. They got
Yeah.
their headline quarterback and all that. So, like, and you're seeing how the young
Mhm.
talent of who this team can be. So where do they go next year?
I
Yes, the
see
schedule.
Shamar is out this week.
He's out for
Oh, he's out for the
he's
year.
out for the season. He's
Yeah.
done. He basically got tweaked in the pregame. Everybody was talking about that too. Like,
Mhm.
the Jags or Jacksonville or whoever, they rolled out brand new sod on Monday, and did it take? Did it not? Whatever. We were like, why did they resod the damn field the week before the game?
Mhm.
Why didn't they do it the week of the Colts game or after the Colts game, since the Jags were on the road
Oh,
the
yeah.
last 2 weeks? But apparently they had the Classic last weekend.
Yeah. It was
ECC or
last
somebody
weekend.
played.
Yeah.
So you knew they were going to resod it like right then because they wanted to be set, because why? The Jags are playing San Francisco next week. So, it's just
Mhm.
one of those things where you're like, okay, well, he had a little bit of a knee twist. He wore a brace in the game. And then I guess late in the game, he dislocated his kneecap or something. So,
Mm.
they say it's like basically like a separated shoulder in the knee. So
Yeah, okay.
he's out for the year. He's our leading tackler, been our best linebacker, but who cares? You're out. You got to find
Next
the
man
next
up.
guy.
Next man up
So
mentality.
I feel like the Gators get it done somehow, some way in a very tight game, and
Yeah.
hell, but I wouldn't at all be surprised if we lose too. So
No. Is that home? Like you say, you like the.
I don't know if we're
The
going to
fact
cover
that
the
you're
line.
at
I don't know if we'll
home
cover
and
the 6, but I think we win the game.
get the W.
I
No,
think
it
it's going to
doesn't
be.
matter. Get the W.
Yeah,
I think it's going to go under as well, but get
yeah,
the W.
yeah, 50. Yeah,
50 is a lot. This is more of
but
an Iowa
well,
Northwestern type
yeah.
line.
So this was
Total.
one of the major questions too. Talking about Billy and all this. I sent you the cinematic recap of the Oregon Utah game,
Mhm.
and I'm sitting here like how much how much I'm a Dan Lanning guy.
I know
So I'm
you're a
just
Dan guy.
so I'm just sitting here thinking I'm like would Dan if obviously if the Gators sucked, but not this year, but if all of a sudden they go 5-7 and then they start the year next year and the same thing,
An
you
upgrade.
fire Billy Napier, would Dan Lanning leave Oregon to come to
It's
coach
an
at Florida?
upgrade. It's an upgrade.
That's what I'm saying. Would you take that job?
Yes. And
Yeah.
he
Okay.
probably wants to go back to the SEC.
Right.
Like it's I love Oregon. I've been an Oregon
Yeah.
fan
Yeah.
for years, but it's not Florida and it's not the SEC.
Yeah. Exactly.
I get they're going to the Big Ten, and I guess there is a little prestige, but he just strikes
His
me
roots are
as
in the South. His roots are in the South.
Yep,
He's been at Bama. He's been at Georgia.
yeah.
He's
He
coached
strikes
with
me as a
he's
SEC
coached with Nick
guy.
and he's coached with Kirby.
I
Yeah.
mean, the only thing that'll keep him there is Uncle Phil's money.
Yeah. Well, I
Uncle
mean, the
Phil will
Gators
have
can pay that. He's getting 4 a year. He's getting 4 a
Yeah.
year right now. Billy's getting 7. I think Lanning's bumps up in like 2026 to 7. So
They
with the
may have to
Gators
go a
offering
little
10.
sooner.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Oregon will have to probably give him
Well,
an extension per se.
we were literally talking about this, me and Gator Dave. He's got to complete the trifecta triangle. Think about it. Who are the last 2 coaches at Oregon, and where did they go?
Yeah, Mario and Willie T.
Willie T. Florida State, and Miami.
Miami. Yeah,
Dan, come on down. I'm not firing Billy yet, but hey,
yeah.
I'm a Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning.
I think it just depends on how these next 2 seasons go, how this one ends, and how next year.
Like I say,
next year is tough.
What you asked me early, the very week 1, what does Billy do? And all I said was the major part about it was, what are the optics like? Okay, so here we are.
Yeah.
We've literally we're 5-3. We're trying to go to a bowl game this week. Will get us to 6 wins. Do I see us winning these next 3 after that? I really don't. So that puts us at 6-6. How do we look in those 6 wins? How do we look in those 6 losses? So right now we have 3 losses, and we've looked absolutely dreadful, dog shit in those 3 losses. It's all the same. That's got to change. Like, you got to be competitive and lose a close game or something. I don't know. So how is it going to look in these next 3 against these 3 big time teams that are ranked in the top 25 against LSU, Missouri, and Florida State? Do you almost pull the upset? Do you pull the upset in one of those?
Yeah.
So that's what I got to see.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why I was talking about the whole Billy thing. Like, what if you guys get dog walked the last 3 games?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Optically, that's bad.
If you're administration, you're sitting there like, yeah, we know he has a bunch of guys coming. Right. Like you say, I think the change.
Dan Lanning can save that class.
The only thing I think is going to happen at the end of the season, I'm like you. I don't think he's going to get fired, but there will be pressure to say, hey, you need to hire an OC.
All that's definitely coming for sure.
Yeah,
so
he's going to have to hire an OC, and that's going to be the pressure that the Coles are going to be at his feet to do. And I think he should do it.
Yeah.
Because nothing has in the last 2 seasons, you haven't seen anything to where you're like, man, this offense is explosive. This offense is this. I mean, I get you could say, well, we probably don't have the guys yet or this and that, but are you guys bringing in the guys? I mean, DJ Lagway, we see what he's doing in high school, but could that translate to college? Which, if Mertz comes back, more than likely Lagway are probably redshirt or transition.
You package them and let them play and let them, get the college game,
for sure.
Which is fine. That's fine with me. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but like Mertz you say, you can't. This week is huge.
Yeah, he's got to hit the portal better too. This portal class sucks. It's been trash. Mertz has been the only bright spot, and luckily he hit on him.
It was just funny because we were all dogging him getting Mertz.
No, for sure.
And he looks like you say, looking better than your boy Devin Leary.
All those guys, even
Hartman's been okay, but I think it's more of the guys around him, and he lost his top tight end. So it's. I mean, Spencer Saunders hadn't hit the field yet, really.
Yeah, exactly. Even
so it kind of looked like it worked out.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, but the rest of the guys, the Bama offensive line transfer, I think he's still getting turnstile by Georgia right now. 76. Fargo, go teach him some stuff, man. I don't know. He is terrible. Nick Saban helped him pack his bag to Gainesville.
So in other words, Miami got the better transfer lineman.
Oh,
And
definitely.
Cohen.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I knew that going in too. I was
Yeah, I
hoping
know.
this
I
guy
know
had
Cohen
something.
was yeah.
But all right, well, we jumped ahead to the preview, so we got Florida completely out of the way. Screw the Gators. We don't need to talk about them. So we'll jump back real quick to two of the other games that were big last weekend that kind of, obviously surprising.
Mhm.
The Boomer Sooners, the fakest team in America, as Brandon Walker would say,
Yeah.
caught that L to the Kansas Fighting
I mean,
Jayhawks.
Kansas is not bad. It's
No, they can't.
they're 6-2.
Backup quarterback in there.
Right. That's been their. I mean, but their backup has a ton of experience from last year.
Bean has played a lot in the last
Yeah.
couple seasons. So
Yeah. So it's not like you lost to like a Emory Williams walking on the field and a freshman or a guy with zero experience came out and beat you.
yeah.
Like I say, Bean's played a ton of football these last
No, he
couple of
has.
years. I mean, of course they want Daniels back, but
Yeah.
I just feel like we've talked, me and you, just us two talked about it, is like, is OU that good, or did they just get up for that Texas game? It was a rival game. They got up for it because they've struggled these last couple of weeks against UCF, and then they lose to KU.
Yeah.
And then they got a big one this week in their
They got Bedlam
Bedlam.
Saturday. So
Yeah. So
yeah,
I mean, I don't know much about Oklahoma State, but I know they're going to play
Oklahoma State.
tough.
They're on a tear. And have you seen that running back they got?
Oh yeah, he's been killing it.
Yeah, Ollie Gordon is like
Yeah.
He's got like 200 plus games back to back weeks.
Mhm.
I don't know how the heck they didn't play him until like week 3. Like Gundy, what are you doing, dog? Like get this guy the rock. So he's getting him the rock now. But I was like on the sense of Oklahoma is pretty good going into that Texas game. I felt like obviously Venables they played D. How good was their offense going to be? Dylan Gabriel's played pretty good. They had a couple of those like tight games against who was it, Cincinnati and SMU early. So you're like okay, and then I was all over Texas. I was big. Obviously
same. We both were.
I still am, but
yeah.
I was like big on Texas that I thought Texas was going to just handle OU. And then, boom, they blow it and lose that game. So you're like, okay, Oklahoma's pretty good. Oklahoma's, I give them the driver's seat. And, so now they come out 2 weeks in a row and kind of laid some clunkers. And now my feeling has been, even after the OU Texas game, was if they played again, Texas would beat them this next time around. And that's exactly how I feel right now. Now, the question is, what does OU and Texas do the rest of these last 4 games to get to the Big 12? And they both have some games that they got to navigate. And obviously the Quinn Ewers injury with Texas is big. So we'll see where that takes them. But Oklahoma, L to the Kansas Jayhawks.
Yeah.
And then the other big game last week was just over before it started, man.
Shellacking.
I'm talking about, Rice Eccles, Utah. They don't lose at home. Well, they caught that L, buddy. I'm talking about it. Put it this way. I had that game on as the same time as obviously Florida, Georgia. So we had them both on at the same time. Watch over there. Boom, boom, boom. Bo Nix right down the field. Touchdown, 7-0 Oregon. I'm like, Oregon came to play today. And,
he's not Auburn's Bo Nix. I'm telling you, he's
got out fast.
Bo's been balling.
Bo's been really good. And, again, I love their backs. They run the ball well. They play good defense. Yep. So, like,
Bucky
Oregon
Irvin and James,
Oregon.
And then they got Troy Franklin and Tez Johnson at wide receiver. Then the tight end, Little Herbert.
And like I say, their defense has been playing good. So
is good too. Yeah.
I felt like they're kind of similar fashion of Washington and Oregon. They had that clash of a classic game. Oregon comes out and almost steals it. By going for it a couple of times. Washington gets the win at home, and you're like, okay, well, let's see where we go these next several weeks to see if we get a rematch in that one or who does what. And Oregon seems like they're trending upward, and Washington kind of seems like they're trending like what's going on here?
Like you said, we'll find out these last 3 weeks. I think Oregon still has what? SC, Oregon State, and Wazoo?
Yeah.
No, they beat Wazoo.
Yeah. Washington still has Wazoo.
Yeah. Washington has Wazoo. I was talking about Oregon.
Yeah, they beat Washington State like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So they still got the Civil War at the end of the season.
Exactly.
Which they probably should win, but hey, it's a rivalry game. Rivalry games are tough.
For sure. So like there's no room for error. You can't slip up. You got to play ball. But I thought for what Utah had been doing, and and
with
where
no Cam Rising,
and
which
how
is
they played at home,
yeah, we got to give Utah credit. I mean, you're playing with basically two quarterbacks that not the one you want at quarterback at
yeah.
Cam Rising. Cam Rising is just a different player, and hey, it's tough. And you know what? They're going to spoil somebody's season.
Oh yeah, for sure. Utah still
You
got
don't want to play Utah in a bowl game.
no, no, for sure. No,
Yeah, so they're
Utah's
still
definitely
going
the real
to
deal. So I'm
yeah.
interested to see where Oregon goes
Mm-hmm.
after that.
Same.
Big win, obviously on the road.
Yeah, same.
All right, we'll hop into our two games previewed for this week, and we'll go first with the Knowles taking on Eat-ish Pitt. I
Boy.
just Pitt's terrible. I don't know how they beat Louisville a couple weeks ago, but they did. But I see Florida State. I see Florida State covering the number. I see Florida State doing whatever they want.
Yeah.
I don't see
Well,
them looking ahead to you guys. I mean,
no.
I just think they're too good. They're too good in all
So
phases, and they win.
there's more to it than this game. In this game, well, first thing, I thought this would have been the game that would give Florida State would be that trap
Right.
game, and
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with Miami. I just
Right.
think Narduzzi is usually a good coach that gets his
Yep.
guys up and they
Yep.
play out of their minds and play bigger than what than most people know because he's a defensive mind. But after he threw his team under the bus this last week,
Yeah. I
those
heard you say
guys.
that.
Yeah, so I mean, he basically said in the press conference that a reporter asked him about his team this year, and he basically said we had a bunch of guys last year, and we just didn't replace them with good guys, and we're basically stuck with the guys we have. And the players all went to Twitter and reacted to it like, really, coach? Like, really? This is what you think of us?
Yeah.
So there's some infight. It could go one or two ways.
Now,
They can either lay down
did he say that before the Notre Dame game or after the game?
after the game.
Okay, because
After the game. Because
you
it
would have
was
made it seem
58
like
to 3.
that's what I'm saying. You would have made it seem like he said it before the game. They were like,
No,
"Well,
no, no, no.
I ain't playing for this guy." So
No,
they
no, it was
might
after
just
the game.
be. It might look just like that against
Yeah.
Notre Dame.
So,
They might be
like I say, it's either you have a serious big time kumbaya and they come
Yeah.
out inspired because it's at Pitt,
I just
and
don't
then
see
you
that
don't know
happening.
what the hell the weather is going to be up there.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. I don't know what.
But I think Florida State's just going to go in there and they should dominate Pitt. Like I say, this is the game I thought that because of that defense and how complex it is and the scheme he runs and the things they do. But after last week, unless they had a really drop couple bags off, bought cars like Utah or something, I don't see it.
Yeah,
I
be
think he's lost his team.
a brisk 51 degrees at 3:30.
Yeah, I think he's lost his team. And
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. If they played the way they did against Notre Dame and got just boat raced, you do that, all that stuff, you lose the team completely. I mean, hell,
yeah.
you already lost them because they're 2-6 to begin with, and they
Yeah.
haven't been really in any game. I
still would think Florida State would beat them, but I think they would give them fits
right,
at least.
right.
But,
It might be a
yeah.
game like Boston College,
Yeah.
but you don't see that at all. Like I say, I don't know how they beat Louisville, but they did, and they won week 1 against Wofford. That's their 2 wins, and then they
why they beat them? Because it's the ACC sponge.
Yeah,
like I
there
keep
you go.
telling you.
You're right. You're right. They're going to be that.
The-
How did
the
Virginia beat
ACC
North Carolina? I don't know.
Exactly. The ACC makes 0 sense.
Yeah. All right. Well, your boys got a little bit of a snake pit game, as we would call it. Going to NC State, one of those like scrappy style teams.
Night
So
game.
this is Carter Finley's not fine confines. Sometimes it's a little scary at the night game and at NC State. I feel like this is where you got to find something. You got to find your rhythm back. You got to get back to that early season swag.
It's all on 9.
You got to get this win, obviously, to continue on.
To
go to Florida State.
Yeah. Two things.
But I mean, I think you guys can do it. But I want to get your expertise and opinion on how you're feeling, where your team's at.
I think they're going to win, and it might be ugly. I don't care.
Who cares? Exactly. 21-20, baby. Let's go.
I think it's on 9, and it's a little bit. It's on play calling because the other frustrating thing to see is 1st and 10. We run the ball, and it's now 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5, and then we run some dumb play where we're doing like a double pass, reverse, or some screen that is only one person blocking. Is it like 2-on-1 on the outside, and you're running a screen? and the next thing you know, it's 3rd and long, and we're behind the chains, and we got to get a first down.
Yeah,
And that's been the season the last couple of weeks. And it's like we'll have a good play on first down, terrible play on second down. Now we're in 3rd and long, and then we're off the field because they're playing coverage, and we're not putting them in. We're not putting teams in binds to where it's 3rd and short, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, where it's like we could run the ball here or we could throw the ball here. And you just go back and you watch the film, and teams are just like, well, we know you're going to throw the ball. You're not going to run it. So, and I just think we got to get the backs more involved in the passing game and the tight ends more involved in the middle of the field, because the routes we're running, we're depending on our receivers to make too many choice options, the right options. And you know, the offensive line is going to do their thing. The defense is going to do their thing. I don't think the defense is going to bend and just let NC State run over them on all of that. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. I mean, as long as Bain's out there and Dean and those guys.
NC State's offense doesn't scare me.
Yeah, the only thing is we don't need to be in another game where it's 17-13 going into the 4th quarter.
And then you see that because that's just kind of what the NC State plays those kind of games.
Yeah.
So you don't. You want it to be 24. You want it to be 24 to 10 going into the 4th quarter.
Yep, it's on 9.
Yeah, because I mean, looking at NC State, you know, started off early in the year. They played UConn and VMI, where they're early 2, sandwiched in between Notre Dame, who dominated them. Then they got the field goal win against, you know, Virginia. Then they played Louisville in a tight game and lost by field goal. Then they played Marshall. That was an easy win. Then they got blown out by Duke, where that backup quarterback that I said should have went for it threw for 4 passes, and they won 24-3. Before finally last week, you know, beating Clemson. You know, so like I said, nice win against Clemson last week. Clemson's kind of sputtering, obviously. But like you just said, Van Dyke's got to he's got to get back to where he was, you know, against A&M and some of those earlier games of the season.
We don't need all.
We don't need 300 plus. We don't need a 300 plus game. Just complete your balls. Don't force those dumb turnovers. You know,
I'll take 1 TD and no picks, and we ran the ball for 250, 300.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. Get your running game going. You know, get some good positivity going into Florida State. You know, get some good feeling that let's wash all the bad taste out of your mouth from you know, Georgia Tech and you know overtime win against Virginia.
They're still in the conference race.
Yeah,
they control exactly. If like I say,
they control their own destiny. One week at a time.
One week at a time. But if they win out, they're still in it theoretically. I mean, granted, it's a big task next week, but we need to worry about this week.
Exactly. You can't lose this week.
You win this week. I mean, the other thing is we're bowl eligible. That's a positive from last week. Yeah. So let's just keep building on that. Let's get a win at NC State at Carter Finley.
I agree, dog. I agree. All right. Well, we'll hop out of the trio of the big 3 and talk about a couple national games. The big 3:30 game this week is, we talked about them earlier, the Georgia Bulldogs hosting the Missouri Tigers. You know, and where does Georgia go after they have the big win against the Gators? Is there a letdown? Do they just continue to play efficient ball? Is Missouri as good as where we think they are? Are they not good? Are they overrated? All that stuff. I don't know how you feel about this one. I feel like this is another moment where Georgia flexes like they did against Kentucky. I think they're at home again. You know, people are now talking about them. They're not number 1 in the poll. You know,
Kirby's using that.
Of course. Why not?
He is.
I just feel like Georgia's too efficient. I feel like they got too much. Defensively, they're good. I think Missouri might, you know, make it a game early. You know, could be tight at halftime. But I think Georgia covers the number. I think Georgia looks good. I think Georgia handles business.
Yeah. Like I said, Carson, shout out to Carson, Duval's own. He's balling. Hey, it's just only thing is, like we said earlier, we just want to get those TD numbers up. But who cares? If you get down the red zone and you run it in and get the W, I think they're going to beat Missouri and maybe a little closer than we think. I could see it being like a 33-24 type game. But I pick Georgia to win. The 15.5, I think Missouri may get like a back cover.
Yeah. They might backdoor
cover, but Georgia's going to win this one.
Yeah, I feel like Georgia I feel like maybe they don't do what they did at Kentucky, but I feel like they're going to look impressive to where people are going to be like, yeah, Georgia is pretty damn good, you know. And like I said, I said it yesterday, you know, Georgia, they get to play the number 12th ranked team, and then they get Ole Miss next week, who's number 10. So you get those 2 wins, they'll probably jump up to number 1 in the rankings when they come out. So
Mm-hmm.
put it this way: all these teams up top, handle your business, win out,
Yeah.
and you'll be where you need to be. That's how it always
Yeah.
is. You know, we always say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just let the chips fall where they may. If you
Just
control your
win.
own destiny, don't screw around, and
Yeah, just win. That's
just
it.
win.
Like
That
like
easy.
we were
That easy.
like we were talking about yesterday. The guy that tweeted at Kirk Herbstreit about, oh, you don't have us at number one and blah 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 blah. And like his response, hey, if you win out,
Yeah.
you're in the 4.
Yeah. That's what I'm
If
saying.
you're one of the top 5, if you're Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, UW, and who am I missing?
That's
Florida
it. Those
State.
are the 5. Yeah, Florida State. Yeah.
That's it.
But there's well,
You win
here's
out,
the
you're in
beauty.
it.
Here's the beauty of that. That's 5 teams for 4 spots, right? Well, guess what? 2 of
Yep.
them have to play each other. So that those other teams take care of business, they're in. So simple math.
Yeah. That's
5.
it. That's all that matters. Who cares? Just win.
Yeah. All right, dog. The nightcap game. The Nick Saban Bowl. The LSU Tigers.
Boy.
The Gox Tigers take on the Alabama Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa at night. It's a night game for ESPN. No, I think it's a CBS. I think they're doing the doubleheader this week. It's the doubleheader CBS game. So I know they got.
Yeah, it's a doubleheader.
Or it might. Is it?
Yeah.
No, you know what? I know there might be a triple header because I feel like Ohio State's playing at noon. Yeah, it's game day. Yeah,
I think
so. It is a double.
It's
a double header. Yeah, they're in Tuscaloosa, but there is a double header because there's a noon Big Ten. You know, they're doing the transition to CBS because SEC is out of here after this year. So the 3:30 game is Georgia Missouri, but I couldn't remember if this was the nightcap week. But I know it was a night game, but I just couldn't remember if the CBS and Danielson was doing the call or if it was. But yeah, it is Herbie and the boys. College game days in town for LSU Bama. I don't know. I'm gonna let you go first on this one and tell me what you think and how you feel on what's going to happen, and I'll give you my thoughts.
This is a very intriguing game to where we've seen Bama step up these last couple of weeks. The defense has been playing a lot better. Can they slow down this high-powered LSU offense? And then on the flip side of that,
the number one offense in the country.
I'm telling you, Daniels, he's got to be in the Heisman race as well.
Yeah, why not?
And this is a Heisman type game. Yeah, this is a Heisman type game for him. So can Bama's defense slow down the LSU offense? And then can the LSU defense do anything? It's a weird game at night in Tuscaloosa. I think I like LSU in this one just because of the offense. And I hate going against Nick. I really do. But can Alabama's offense keep up with LSU's offense? Because I don't think Bama's going to slow them down enough. I still think LSU could put up 28 points on that defense. Yeah. And as long as Daniels doesn't turn the ball over and he's going to scramble, he's going to have to need like a 275-yard plus passing and probably 80 yards rushing to win this game. Will Malik Neighbors and Lacey and those guys help him out on the edges to put Bama in those fits because they got a lot of talented guys on the outside. So I like LSU winning. Like I said, I'll say like 28-21.
Ooh, kind of low scoring. Well, not low scoring, but I feel you on that. I mean, that's kind of the neighborhood where they've been winning some of their games.
Yeah.
Both LSU and Alabama. LSU's offense is scary good. It's potent for sure. Alabama defensively has been playing better. You know, we talk about what does Alabama do on offense? You know, Milroe, he's been solidly getting better and better each week. You know, he's got that great deep ball that we love. You know, he's finally found a true one in Jermaine Burton. I think he's been tremendous at receiver. You know, their running backs aren't as good as maybe they're McClellan and Roydell Williams are both good players.
It's just not what we're used to seeing.
They're not the Josh Jacobs. They're not the Derrick Henry. They're not the Mark Ingrams. They're not those guys. They're Jamar Gibbs. You know, so they're complementary to that offense. But I just feel like
LSU's defense is just that bad.
That's where it's at for me. I feel like
I totally agree.
I think Bama's offense is good enough to feast on that defense. So I feel like it's going to be a shootout. Yeah. So what it comes down to me is I feel like Alabama's just a little bit better on defense, so they might get that late game stop when they maybe shouldn't.
Yeah, I can see that. I just
I'm seeing like a 34-31 like
yeah,
Bama win, something
yeah,
like
I can
that.
see that. I went kind of low
I
with
mean,
the score, but yeah, I can see
that's what I'm
that.
saying. It's like, again, I can see exactly what you're saying too. So it's like, it's not like, one of us is obviously gonna be right, one of us is gonna be wrong. But the thing about it is that we both see what type of game it's
It
probably
could
gonna
be.
be.
Yeah.
I think we'd both be shocked if one team just ran away with it than the other.
Yeah,
That would be
because
like if Alabama just smokes them or vice versa, we'd be like,
well,
whoa, I didn't see that
I
coming.
think if Alabama smokes him, that means Jane Daniels is thrown 2 or 3 picks. He's
Right,
fumbled the ball,
right.
type things in his short field, and Bama's able to get points off a short field. Like I said, that offense has just been so high powered this year that it really is a scary offense to go against.
Yeah.
And if you're a Florida State fan,
They got them when they
usual
got them when they needed to.
exactly.
Week
And not
one,
saying
buddy.
that they wouldn't beat them
Right,
today,
right.
but you're not playing against a fully high powered offense in what LSU is. And like I said, I still a lot of people don't. I know you're one of them. You don't give that win opening weekend a lot of credit. I
No,
give that a
I
huge
give that
credit to
one. No,
Florida
I
State.
give that one. I give that one a lot of credit. The Clemson win for Florida State has
Yeah,
been
that's out the window. Yeah,
no,
that's out
no,
the window
no. That's
after those
still,
couple
dude.
weeks.
They put it. That game was tight at halftime against
Yeah.
LSU. And it looked like LSU had
Mhm.
some opportunities early in that game offensively. They
And
didn't
then
cash
Florida
in
State
on,
went on one of their
and
runs
then
where they
Florida
do that.
State just obliterated them in the second
Yeah.
half. That
Mhm.
offense we've talked about. What happened? Jane Daniels threw a pick, set them up
Yep.
for the short field. Then they had a couple big plays. Next thing you know, they're
Mhm.
down 14, and then obviously they can't get nothing going. And Florida State did what they did. They did their
Yeah.
groundswell,
Mhm.
scoring on them, and they barraged them. You know, I look at basically where LSU, they had that tight game going back against Arkansas where they won by a field goal. Then they had that crazy wild shootout game in Oxford where they lost that game to Ole Miss, which was a hell of a game, was wild.
Yeah.
And then that's where I was like, okay, maybe this LSU team is done. Maybe they're not. Obviously, we saw where the chinks from the defense were like, wow.
Yeah.
Then they played at Missouri, that 12 o'clock game a couple weeks ago. And I thought Missouri was in a good spot for that. And that was a heck of a game, too. Missouri was in the lead, back and forth.
The
But
LSU
somehow
scored
LSU,
like what 40 something seconds
yeah,
left. Like just
they found a way to win that one, which was
yeah.
big. And then, they had two, in my opinion, easier games. They played against the Auburn team who's kind of struggling, and they played
Mhm.
Army. So basically, LSU got their offense rolling in those two games. So now you're going to buckle down and have to play a big time defense in Saban and the boys. So it could go one of
Either
two
way.
ways. It can go either
Because I
way.
mean,
And
even the back end for Alabama struggles too,
yeah,
other than Kool-Aid.
no, trust me, they've given up some big plays in the passing
Yeah.
game. Going back to where they came out slow against. That's the other thing. They don't need to come out slow like they did against Tennessee.
No.
So they can't. They gotta stay on par if they get into the shootout. You got to stay on par with LSU.
Mhm.
You can't go down big. I mean, definitely Bama's built for that if they wanted to. Like unlike a Florida team where they're not built to come back. But you don't want to definitely start out behind the hole against a high-powered offense like LSU. So
No.
I just we'll see what happens with it. Put it this way: it should be a heck of a ball game.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to it. A couple of the other top games, we'll just brush up on real quick before we get into our top 10 power rankings, whatever, college football rankings, all that good stuff. I guess really the only other sexy matchup of the weekend would be the Big Ten games. Maybe the K-State at Texas. How does Texas play another game without Quinn Ewers? K-State was kind of one of those teams we saw early in the year. They were like, this could be a sneaky team to win the Big
Mhm.
12, maybe last year's TCU version.
I mean, they had a last second loss to Missouri.
Yeah, they've quietly come back into the picture,
Yeah.
and I think they pose a formidable threat to Texas. Texas can't mess around with these guys, and
No. Especially with Malik Murphy at quarterback. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
he's got a little experience, but he's still the backup.
Right.
But the thing is, his feet, he could get out on the move and run. And I'm curious to see how Sark plays with him. Does he get him on the roll to the outside? Like, is a lot of QB run going on? But ultimately, you want to say Texas should dominate this game. They're bigger, faster, stronger. But KSU is just they're like that well-oiled machine that just does everything, the fundamentals right. They just hope for a little break here and there with a turnover, but I still like Texas to win. I like
Yeah.
Texas to cover.
Yeah, Malik Murphy was 16 to 25 for 170 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick last week in their win against BYU, where they won 35-6. They really got it going on the ground game with Brooks, with almost 100 yards rushing.
This is where you expect everybody else to step up. You expect your
Yeah.
defense to step up, your offensive line with the running game and take the pressure. And I mean, you still got A.D. Mitchell, you still got Xavier Worthy, you got Saunders, you got weapons on the outside. Can you get the ball to them?
Do we see Arch Manning at all ever? I don't know.
Why? If you're Sarkisian, why even bring that on yourself?
Yeah.
No, unless Murphy just looks god awful.
Yeah.
I would not put that kid on the field because it won't be the end of it.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely it'd be a mess. But I'm curious to see, because it's not like he lit it up last week at BYU, but he played good enough to win. Plus, once you got control of the game, you don't really have to worry about it, and exactly just get out of there with a win. Yeah, one of the other Kansas State loss on the year was the other game we'll touch up on is the Bedlam game. They lost to Oklahoma State as well, who's kind of been on a quiet little tear of late. So this will be Oklahoma. Like, are you the fakest team in college football, or are you for real? Where are you at?
And Gundy and the boys, what better team they want to beat?
Gundy's already mad that Bedlam's done. He's had their beef with them, all that. Like,
so he wants to end this one on a high note.
Oh, heck yeah. He would. He definitely wants to beat OU, and like I say, Oklahoma has been playing kind of struggling, like we just said, down the stretch here, where they've kind of didn't play good against UCF and might have lost that game. They found a way to win. They got it done. Where's their head out after finally losing last week to Kansas? So the biggest thing, like we said before, they got on the road. Yeah, they got to figure a way to stop Ollie Gordon. He has been. I had his stats for you because I know we talked about it. He didn't play early in the year, and then literally his last 6 weeks, he went for 121 against Iowa State, 136 against Kansas State, 168 against KU and the Jayhawks. Then in his back-to-back weeks here at West Virginia, went for 282 and 4 touchdowns. And then against Cincinnati, he went for 271 and 2 touchdowns, man. Like,
it's like he's just going up.
That's crazy. Give him the ball, baby. Give him the ball. Ollie Gordon.
How many carries are we talking?
Heisman, man. Give my man the Heisman. What's his total for the year? I need it. He is 141 for 1,087 yards and 10 touchdowns. That's his numbers for the season.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
In 6 games?
No, I take it back. That's his he's career. He's averaging 8 yards a carry. That was his career numbers because that threw in his 22. He's 8 yards a carry for 978, so almost a K, and he's got 8 touchdowns.
He'll get that this week.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He just needs 30, 40 yards. Hey.
So but hell, he didn't even play. He didn't even play like week 1 or 2.
That's what I'm saying. It's gonna be some heavy run blitzing going on.
Yeah. So like I say, that's gonna be a challenge. I want to see what Oklahoma's can they stop this guy. I mean, he's gone for.
I mean, if you want
3 bills and 270,
if you still want to play for your conference championship game to get into the big game, the big tournament, you better find a way to stop them.
Yeah,
there's one more loss and they're completely out.
Oh yeah, they're done. They one more loss and they're
loss, they're out.
They're definitely out.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there any other games that I'm really looking forward to this weekend? I mean, let me look at the schedule. There's always a Pac-12 game, but I mean, not really. I mean, there's some games out there to be seen. Washington, USC this weekend. I don't even know what to say about USC. Washington's been struggling. Put it this way,
that's what I'm saying.
This could be a tough spot for Washington. I mean, their offense has been struggling, even with Penix. Their defense has been struggling. Also, like they've just not been scoring like they have. All of a sudden, if USC can score, 30, 40 points, you got to match them. So
yeah,
I think put it this way, that's a potential game. You're number 5 in the rankings right now, Washington. Don't mess around and find out. You definitely want to take care of business and win this one.
Don't get in the track meet. You don't want to. The thing is, they don't want to get in the track meet with USC because as bad as we've been banging on USC, they still could put up 40 points, 50 points if they have to.
For sure. How they won last week with 49 to 50 to 49 or something like that against Cal. I mean, they're capable of scoring.
Get it.
Yeah, they're capable of scoring. So it's still Caleb Williams, still Lincoln Riley's offense. So I mean, this is one of those games where you better take care of business if you're Washington. How you haven't been playing very well against ASU and Stanford, in back-to-back weeks. You get that big win against Oregon, and your last 2 weeks you kind of look but it is what it is. Like I said, you got a big one this week against the Trojans, so we'll see what happens. But all right, well, let's jump into our final segment here where we talk about our famous, infamous top 10 power rankings, where we got the guys, what do we think about the college football playoff rankings, all that good stuff. What did you, before you give me your 10, did you have any gripes or complaints? I guess give me your top 10, and then we'll talk about what gripes you had for the committee when they dropped the rankings the other night.
I mean, the only gripe I have is it could be a gripe. It may not be a gripe. Is OSU at 1? I get it, though. For me, my top 10, I still got Georgia at 1. I got the Noles at 2. I got Ohio State at 3, Michigan at 4, UW at 5, Oregon 6, Texas 7, Bama 8, Penn State 9, and Ole Miss 10.
The Ole Miss Rebels, Lane Kiffin.
They're not going to stay there too much longer, but got to put somebody at 10.
No, I got Ole Miss at 10 in mine too. So
yeah,
like I say, they're playing Georgia next week. So I think Georgia wins that one next week. But yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with the committee. I had Ohio State number 1. I feel like if we're going resume and who they played, and where they played them, 2 top 15 wins against Penn State and Notre Dame. And they
I don't want to hear Michigan. I don't want to hear Michigan in your top 5 then.
Michigan's they're cheaters. I don't have them ranked. They're going to get expelled from my list. No. I just feel like Ohio State, the thing that's got everybody, I think, in a tizzy with Ohio State, it just doesn't look like Ohio State's looked in the past couple of years. When they think Ohio State, they're thinking Justin Fields, CJ Stroud, all these receivers, and they throw them for 400 yards and they're winning games.
I'm thinking about how they look this year.
I know.
But what I'm saying is, for me,
I know. But what I'm saying is what people are used to seeing is that. So when they don't see that, see that, they're seeing Kyle McCord, he's clunky, this, that, and the other. The offense hasn't looked in rhythm, yada, yada, yada. That's what everybody's seeing. But, I'm seeing okay, I know what they have in a cheat code in Marvin Harrison Jr., a quarterback who's coming along. I still like their backs. They do have, Emeka, and they still got Fleming and those guys. They still haven't come together on offense. I don't know if maybe they won't, maybe they will.
Well, to me, it's kind of like Miami in a sense. It's all on the trigger man.
Yeah. And like I say,
it's on the trigger man. I've been saying that all year for them. It's on the trigger man.
And this is a brand new kid, not much experience, sure. So that's what I'm saying. So he's still trying to gel and get it together. Where I'm hanging my hat with this team is I think that defense is legit. They haven't had a team score over 17 all season. They're lights out on the front 4, the front 7. The back end's good.
The 2 best best offenses they've played are who?
Yeah, they haven't played anybody big offensively, But again, we play that tit for tat. Florida State offense.
But the 2 best offenses they've played.
Does Florida State have that type of defense? No, they don't.
To what?
Compared to Ohio State's and FSU's defenses.
I like Florida State's defense.
But how do you not like Ohio State's defense?
I didn't say I didn't like them. I just said they're not the number 1 team in the country because it's a 3-phase game: offense, defense, special teams.
It definitely is. And like I say, what I think people get caught up on is
Florida State's 3 phases are better than Ohio State's.
Well, you still you got them ranked at 3, so there you got them still. You got Florida State better than the Buckeyes.
Yeah,
Ricky would take. He takes much joy in that one.
But the thing is no disrespect to Ohio State. All I'm saying is I feel like Florida State's 3 phases of the game are better than Ohio State's at this moment. If Ohio State and Florida State play today, I think Florida State beats them because they could score enough points. Ohio State's offense, they don't scare me. Yeah, of course you're going to be like, I got a Mecca, I got Marvin Harrison, I got Cade Stover. I could go down the list of guys they have, but if you can't get the ball to them, it doesn't damn matter.
Yeah.
Whereas Florida State,
we're not gonna find anything else because the offense should roll. Well, the offense should roll the next 3 weeks against Rutgers, Michigan State, and Minnesota. So maybe they'll score 40 and impress you. Maybe I don't know.
No.
I don't think there's anything. The only thing that's going to impress you is if they beat the cheaters and close out the season undefeated. That's the only thing that's going to impress you. But we'll see where that. Like I say, I feel like an Ohio State bandwagoner. Cool. I'm banging the drum of the non-urban Myers. Ryan Day led. We're tougher than you, Lou Holtz.
Yeah.
But
Who
no,
else
I
you got
just
in your top 10? Let's move off of that team.
let's get off Ohio State, even though I got them number 1. Georgia, number 2. The Michigan Wolverines, the cheaters, at number 3. Now, this is my question. Is Florida State in my Final Four right now?
Once again, how do you have Michigan? If you're sitting there telling me Florida State hasn't played anyone,
No, I know
allegedly,
they have an LSU
how
one.
do you have Michigan at 3?
I'm just going with the eye test impressiveness, like everybody else. They just look Michigan. They're cheating. They know everything that's coming, so they just look more impressive.
Can you read their wins for us?
I don't need to read it just because I'm different.
No, go ahead. No,
where's everybody else in the country have Michigan? Everybody has Michigan in the top 3.
Can you please read their wins to us?
Their wins are big: 30-3, 35-7, 31-6, 31-7, 45-7, 52-10, 52-7, 49-0.
I'll help you out. East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, Rutgers, Nebraska, Minnesota, Indiana, and Michigan State. That murderer's row.
Yeah, nobody can score on them. They're only giving up 7 a game.
Who's the best team they played? Rutgers
and Nebraska. Matt Rule's turned that team around. They got 5 wins now. Like I say, we haven't disagreed that they haven't played in a soul. Like I don't disagree with that.
Who else do you have? Yeah, I'm curious.
Like I say,
you got Florida State.
That's what I'm saying. You jumped me because basically I had Michigan in my top 4, which everybody in America does. Like it's a crime that I have them in there over the mighty Florida State Seminoles.
I'm just saying. Go ahead. Who's
number
number 4?
Do I have FSU at 4? I
had
them in there last. I had them in there last week.
You probably
had them in there.
You probably dropped them because they had to go to Wake.
Yeah, they played Wake, man. That was terrible.
He dropped them because they had to play a conference game in North Carolina at noon, and they won. They won by 30.
My biggest thing here. This is where I'm a hypocrite. It's like I talk about resume, and how Ohio State's played, Penn State and Notre Dame, two top 15 teams. Who else in the top 5 what is the best win of the season? Who's got the best win?
Best win of the season?
It's actually pretty easy. The best. There you go. They got the best win.
They're the best win.
They beat the number 6 ranked team, Oregon, right there.
I think that's the best win.
So I've got Washington at 5 and Florida State at 4. But I thought hard about Washington.
I bet.
But hey, I'm going to let the rest of the season play out, like we said before.
Yeah, for sure. Who else you
got? I've got Florida State at 4. I've got the Washington Huskies at 5. And then, like I say, it fits according to yours right after that. I've got Oregon at 6, Texas at 7, Bama at 8. I've got Oklahoma at 9 and Ole Miss at 10. So,
you don't have your Penn State Nittany Lions in the top 10?
They're at
your
11.
Favorite team? Your Drew Aller led.
I don't like Penn State. I'm a Ohio State Buckeyes, man.
Whatever, man. You've been hyping up Drew Aller all season.
I know he's my guy. I wish he was my quarterback. Not really, but no. Like I say, Penn State's Penn State. They're gonna lose 3 games.
Yeah. I mean,
ultimately, they're gonna lose 2 games. They're gonna lose 2 games. They lost their 1 game. Yeah. They're gonna lose to Michigan next week.
Yeah. Like we say, it's you just looking at these top 10s. I mean, even outside of the top 5, our top 5s, right? If Oregon wins out, they're going to be in the 4.
Yeah.
If Texas wins out, they could possibly be in the 4. If somehow Bama wins out, Bama could be in the 4 because they'll beat the number 1 team in the country in the SEC championship game.
Exactly.
Like technically, Penn State's not out of it. Penn State wins out.
Yeah, if they beat Michigan next week, they can get
a 3-way. It could be a 3-way tie.
Possibly. I think Ohio State still would go, but I think Penn State would have the much tougher. If they're at 11 right now, I don't know how high they would jump up if they beat Michigan.
But I'm just looking at my top 10.
Penn State, Penn State. I want to this week right here will kind of determine where I really fall in love or fall out of love with Penn State. They play at Maryland. One of the teams, with Lil Tua, Maryland's been good, but
Northwestern.
I know that's just
that's a bad loss.
That downs me for them big time. I'm like, come on, man.
That's a bad loss. But like you say, college football is week to week. We every week we can sit here and say, oh, this team lost to this team lost to this team. I mean, hell, we can say Virginia beat North Carolina and then they lost to Miami, but Miami lost to North Carolina. So who's the better team? I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a week to week. the scheme, does your scheme match up against them? Are you better than them? Like, do the kids go out and play? There's so many variables today, whereas not 20 years ago, where the top 10 was going to roll until Miami and Florida State played each other, or Florida State and Florida played each other, because they pretty much rolled the rest of their schedule. So it's totally different now. Any team could get got.
Yeah, what's crazy is I saw a stat the other day. They were talking about the top 10 teams this year, like against the spread or cover and all that, is like they're killing it. Like there's been zero upsets.
I saw it. I meant
zero upsets all year. Like you don't consider Oklahoma, Texas an upset, or Alabama, Texas an upset, because they're both comparable. They're both in the top 10.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about that, like Maryland beat, Ohio State, or something like that.
Yeah.
Georgia loses to Florida. That there's been all the top 10 teams have been handling business with no problem. So
yeah, for the most part,
you got to think. I don't really see that trend necessarily stopping, the rest of the way. Not definitely.
I mean, but one key injury could change everything. Like like you said, we're talking about Texas. When does Ewers come back?
Right.
Does he come back in the next 2-3 weeks? I think it was like a 2 to 4 week injury.
Yeah.
But and like you say, if they lost this weekend, would it surprise you? Because the first thing you're going to say is,
not really,
they got
Kansas State.
backups.
Kansas State. Yeah, Kansas State's a good team. It would not surprise me. Kansas State could really they could play their damn game of the year. That's what happens in college football, where this is their Super Bowl of a game for some reason.
If Texas loses this week, they're out of it.
100%.
It would have to take a lot for them to get back in it.
Yeah, once you have like the one loss teams, your mulligan is over. So now it comes down to those final undefeated teams. What do you do? And that's where it'll get interesting for FSU. You better take care of business, because I feel like your one loss mulligan is not going to be as good as like a Oregon one loss or a Texas one loss, just because of the way the ACC's kind of turned out. So Florida State has like zero room for error. I don't think they're going to get a mulligan, per se.
No, and that's more on the conference than anything.
Right. Right.
I think that's not on them. That's just playing a bad conference.
Yeah, normally that would be like the Pac-12 the last couple of years or something, where if Florida State had the one loss, and you're looking at a one loss, Utah team, or a one loss USC team, or Washington, that the Pac-12 hadn't been as strong as it is this year. So so you're looking at, if you mess around and get that one loss, you're looking at like the Texases, the Oregons, if Washington loses one, Alabama, you're looking at all those guys. So like, you don't want to be in that. Hell, you're looking at a one-loss Michigan or an Ohio State too. So like you're like, you don't want to be near none of that category. So
no,
you keep winning and you're in. So that's where it sounds easier said than done. But we'll see where
you got to get up week in and week out.
Yeah, we'll see where Florida State. Like, put it this way, I know there's nothing more in the world that you'd give next week for the Canes to knock Florida State off, just as much as I would love to freaking beat them on Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
If Miami or Florida can cancel Florida State season, let's go.
I know that would make you like extremely happy.
That would make my season.
Listen,
hey, I'm gonna put my Hurricane. I'm gonna put the Hurricane shirt on next weekend, baby.
If somehow Miami wins that game, I'm just hypothetical.
I'm calling Cooney. I'm calling all the boys.
If Miami won this next week, you could care less what happens in Gainesville.
Totally. We could lose.
Like, of course, you want your Gators to win, but you would care less what happens in Gainesville. I'm talking about
Florida
the end of the season when you guys play.
Florida can lose by 50 next week to LSU, and I'll be happy as can be next Saturday. What sucks is next Saturday. You want to talk about next Saturday is a slate, man.
Yeah.
Have you looked at it?
I glimpsed it.
Let's Saturday is.
Try to go over it real quick. I don't care about looking ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Look ahead, baby. Look ahead for what we get to talk about next week, because it might be the best weekend of the year so far.
Yeah. I mean, you got that's week 11.
Yeah. Take a look.
Let's just look at all of them. Oh, we got that barn burner on Thursday night. Virginia at Louisville.
Yes, sir.
So let's see. Ole Miss, Georgia, Miami, Florida State, Utah, Washington, SC, Oregon, Texas, TCU, Tennessee, Missouri, Florida, LSU. That kid from Stanford still putting up numbers, man. That receiver.
He's going in the first round, man.
Yeah.
He's flying up draft boards.
I just hope that Dion and his team may get their 5th win next week. Probably not. Arizona's decent.
Arizona's pretty damn
Penn
good.
State, Kentucky, Bama.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just hope they don't load up one end of the day with the games
I know.
like they've been
Like
doing.
I've already got a feeling that Florida LSU is going to be a night game, and I have a feeling that Florida State Miami is going to be a damn night game. They're both going to be on the same
No,
time.
it's a 3:30.
They've
They
already
just
locked
haven't
it in.
announced. It's kind of locked in. They just don't know what channel it's going to be on. I saw 3:30, but they just don't know if it's going to be like ABC or ESPN or whatever.
See, I think Florida they were still on the. It was
the whole.
Put it this way: Ole Miss, and Georgia should be your 3:30 CBS game. So it's not going to be Florida LSU. So it's going to be a night game. So if that's good, that those games will be opposite each other. So I don't have to have them on at the same time. Not because realistically, I want to watch Florida State Miami and I want to watch Florida LSU locked in on both. So that'll be good that I can streamline both of them and then have another game, one of these other games.
Yeah,
and I'll put
Ole Miss Georgia. Let's get through this week first.
Yeah, for sure. I already was looking ahead, man. I was like, "Woo, I like next week." But yeah, no, this week's going to be good. This is a big find out where you're at week. Obviously with the Gators, can they get bowl eligible?
This is every week, you're starting to jockey. That top 10 starting to jockey, and you're coming almost down that backstretch.
Yeah,
it's almost time to come down that backstretch to figure out some things.
I think the Canes handle business. I think they get it done on the road at NC State. I think obviously Florida State.
I think Miami. I think I could see it being like a 23-17 type game. Florida.
I think y'all score more than that. I think y'all win. 31-17 Canes.
I could see that, but a 23-17, have they been playing, is more realistic to me. The Gators in Arkansas, it's a tricky game. Just because you guys are at home, I could see you guys getting that 6-1. That'll be like a 28-24. I know all my scores are low.
No, that's about where I got it. That's I'm like 30-24.
But if KJ Jefferson and the boys get off, it would not shock me one bit.
I can see them winning 31-28. Something like that.
Yeah,
like I say, I think Florida State wins 45-7. They kill.
I think Florida State. Like I say, only way is if they have a serious kumbaya at Heinz Field and everyone gets on the same page, which I just don't see in 1 week with these kids. I don't see it. I think Florida State rolls. Like I said, before the season, during the season, I'm like, all right, the Pitt game is going to be the test game, but yeah, Florida State should. Only way is if it's raining sideways and it's cold and whatnot.
Before we get out of here, just real quick, let's talk about this whole Connor Scallion shit, man. Let's talk about this Michigan sign stealing thing. I was like, we got to talk about this just a little bit and just be like, what is your thoughts? Like, what's going on? Like, it's crazy. Every day there's something new.
Something new, yeah.
It's wild, to the Ray-Ban sunglasses on the sideline at Central Michigan.
Yeah, so
what is going on here, man?
Every team cheats. Every team tries to get a competitive advantage. I think it gets to a point to where there's sign stealing for sure, but this is kind of like a Spygate-esque situation where if you're filming signs and you're doing all those things and you're taking it to the extreme, it's a gray area for me. I think it's cheating. Yeah. But it's not out of the realm of what every team does. Before you go, did you see the little cut up on ESPN Instagram with Mike Leach?
No.
There was a cut up of Mike Leach when he was the OU. He was the first year OU OC, and they were playing against Texas. And it was about the sign stealing thing, and he was like, "Yeah, I heard that team stole signs and whatnot." So what I did was I got a play sheet.
The dummy signs?
No, he had the first 15 plays, and he gave it to one of his players, like during pregame or whatever, and they were looking at it, and they were walking in, and he told them, what you need to do is act like you're putting it in like your belt loop, but make sure it falls out.
Yeah, drop it.
And he dropped it, and someone from Texas got it, and he was like, let's see if they're going to do, go along with the play sheet. And play 3, I think he did the first 2 plays of the sheet, and then play 3 was like a double reverse. And Texas did an all-out blitz. and the receiver was wide open. He just dumped it over the top and scored. And he goes, "Yep, they fell for it."
Yeah. That's a
It
great,
was pretty cool.
that's a great story. Like I say, and the
Yeah,
thing about it is, we know that people do steal signs, and we know
yeah.
that it's just my thing with the elaborate stuff that goes on where
Yeah.
you're going to all these games, you're buying tickets for games that
And
are
you're
like
somehow
future
you're on the
events. And
sideline.
yeah, that one was now the biggest myth now is how you're on the Central Michigan sideline and
Yeah.
nobody even like what
Your
was the
boy
other Central
Butters.
Michigan staffers or coaches
Your
doing?
boy Butters.
Shark attack boy, shark boy,
Yeah.
Sharknado. It's wild. And and now you're starting to see, I guess the other thing is, if everybody's doing it, then why aren't there more stuff of where we're seeing videos of
Well,
staffers on other places going to these places like
what did we?
Michigan or like Florida and Florida State?
Yeah,
Why are we not seeing Florida State guys at Miami games filming
yeah,
Clemson? And
yeah.
like maybe
What
there
did you
is, but
say?
we are not
What did
seeing it.
before we started? What did you say about the video?
Yeah, there's a
What
brand
was he
new
doing?
there's a brand new video that I just saw a couple hours ago. Literally, it is the game, the big Ohio State Michigan game. He's literally standing next to the defensive coordinator for Michigan last year in that game, and he's like, "Run right," and then you can literally see him say the words "run right." The Stallions guy, he's right next to the defensive coordinator. Then you see the defensive coordinator immediately yelling, "Blitz right, blitz right," and then you see the play run, and it's literally a run blitz to the right, 0 yards gained, nothing, nothing doing. So it's
Yeah,
like when you literally know the plays coming, like that is a major advantage.
yeah.
And on
I
top
mean,
of it, it's such an elaborate deal that they got going is to where, like we said before, go look at Michigan's record
mhm.
before they started doing this and after. And it'll be a little bit mind blowing to you. You'll be
So
like,
here's
dang, something
but so
happened.
here but
They got
here's the
better players. Like,
so the problem is I think what most people would say is, well, why don't they change their signs?
right. And they do
And
that. They do
they
that.
do that, but the problem is when you're limited to 20 hours a week
Yeah.
with
It's
the
you already got
kids,
all that set up.
it's hard to sit there and change every sign
Right. And
and
I know
expect.
a lot of coaches have come out. Yeah. They expect, you can't do that quick.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard. So that's why, you know, this is such a big deal. It's not like the NFL where you're paid your job,
Well,
that's your job.
well, this is what I was going to say. What all the coaches say, if you want to just X-nay this all out, you do what the NFL does, put the headphones and the
Well, they're still
earplug and the
gonna
mic.
cheat. They're still gonna tap
Of
into
course.
that.
Well, of course. And then on top of
What if
that
you're paying
too,
Michigan to do
this is
armbands?
this is the big thing too. Why the coaches aren't all in outrage to let's do all the earphones and headphones and the mics and the helmets is because guess what? Then you can't steal signs. You
Yeah.
yourself as
So, but so
so
quick before we go, I know we got to wrap this up, but I met a guy on the road for work,
yeah,
and he was telling me about how the NFL systems are guarded by FBI, off-duty FBI agents before games. So, like,
right.
all of the
Yeah,
devices that go
yeah,
into the helmets are on the sideline, and before the equipment guys put it in, they're sitting there, and they're ex FBI agents that are hired, not ex agents, but they're off duty,
right,
and that's their only
right.
job. They stand on the sideline and they guard it to make sure that no one touches it
Messes with it.
or messes with it or taps it or whatever.
Nice.
Which I thought was interesting. That that's what teams are doing. But hey, it's an elaborate thing, and you got to do what you got to do. And I think what for the expectations from all 120 some schools to be able to afford security and all of that stuff. I mean, hell, teams are getting their locker rooms broken into and stuff
Right,
stolen. Is like leave a staffer in there. Like that one blew my mind when I heard it. I'm like, why wouldn't you have a staffer in there when you have 30 people on your staff?
right. They all
So
want to be on the
it's a lot
sideline,
going
man.
on. Yeah, for sure. Everybody
They
want to
all
be
want to be on the
on.
sideline. I don't want to
Yeah,
be in the locker room. I'm not a babysitter for the locker room.
yeah,
Too bad.
yeah.
That's your
But
job. That's your
yeah,
job, dog.
as the weeks go on, it's going to be interesting to see how the Big Ten handles this Michigan situation. I don't expect anything for 2
Yeah,
to 3
I don't
years.
think the Big Ten's not gonna do exactly.
I
And
don't think
and
they.
obviously
Well,
here in blue,
they had a conference call, and all the
yeah.
coaches
Well,
are like, "You guys got to
they're,
do something."
yeah, they're not gonna do anything. And on top of that, the
No,
college football playoff committee guy said, you know what, that's an NCAA thing. They're in the top four. See you. So it's not gonna affect. All this is not gonna affect where they're ranked and where they're slotted.
no,
If
no.
they win their games, they're gonna be in there at the end. They
But
got to
guess
win.
what? If
But
they're in the playoffs, you have a month and a half to figure out your signs to change everything.
You got a month and a half to go fly to wherever you got to go get signs from, Connor Scallions. You got to go to Georgia, Florida State. Where's your next game?
Hey, he did send some to Tennessee, the South Carolina last year to help them beat Tennessee at the end of the year. I mean, it makes sense now because they did beat the hell out of Tennessee.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, dog. Well, let's wrap it up here on a Week 10 edition of the Talking Ball podcast because we know ball. We talk ball. We know college ball. So we appreciate everyone. So go hit the like, subscribe button. Appreciate you for tuning in. Thank you for lasting this long with us if you did. Like I say, we'll be back next week to break down that slate that we got good games next week, but we'll talk about obviously what happens this week with our teams, and we'll do it again next week. So appreciate y'all, and we'll holler.